So, welcome everybody for third session on the rule of life. 10 sessions on rule of life. First day we had discussed about duality, dvandva. Second session we had discussed about diversity. You know, the concept of diversity is so limitless. One can speak about that itself for many days. And today we are discussing on the principle of karma. Karma is action centric, not regret centric. The general understanding about karma, whether it is in the Western world or in the Eastern world, karma philosophy is a pessimistic philosophy. Whether it was the movement created by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, or it is Jawaharlal Nehru, or the Christian world, considered karma to be pessimistic philosophy, because one says that this is your destiny and you are born with this destiny, you cannot change. Compartmentalizing your entire past, present, and future based upon the karma philosophy. Therefore, it is not empowering, rather, it is exploiting the growth of the people. Right? That was one of the reason why the people who focus on action, they denounce the theory of karma. But the karma theory, if you go study carefully, not even asking about studying deeply, if you only apply your common sense, read few verses from the Bhagavad Gita and see the observational reality, you will understand karma can never be a pessimistic concept. Karma is action centric. Whatever one talks about the past is only to diagnose, not to conclude. And to understand this little bit, we have to study the two contradictory philosophy in the world religion, the Abrahamic faith and the Buddhistic faith. What does the Christian world, one of the philosophy from the Abrahamic religion, is the Christian world? What does it talk about karma? Does Christianity accept the karma? Generally, those who are not so deep in Christianity and those who want to see universalism everywhere, they try to impose their understanding, quoting things out of context, saying that, oh, it also mentions about karma. And one of the statement where people quote is, as you shall sow, so shall you reap. Sowing and reaping, this is the example everybody gives, and this is from Bible only. But if you study the root concept of karma and study Christianity, this is the essence what they say. When all is said and done, it is God who is the perfect and holy judge of all the earth. God is the perfect judge. He will see that the righteousness is rewarded and that sin is punished. This they do not call as karma, please understand. When we cite karma as the force that will do these things, we are taking the glory away from the one alone, deserves our fear and our praise. Karma is not real. It is a pagan concept which promotes a form of salvation by works. By works. That means you work and you will achieve perfection. That is what they are saying, that is what they believe, and Bible does not agree with the concept of karma being responsible for your elevation karma is responsible for your degradation. Beyond karma, there is a force who is called as God. Okay? It is a pagan concept which promotes a form of salvation by works, and the believer in Jesus Christ must remove it from his or her vocabulary. Let us give God, this is the essence, let us give God his proper place in the universe, for in the end he will not be denied. So what is Christianity talks about? Christianity talks about in the ultimate reality, it is the grace, it is God, it is Jesus who decides your destination, not your karma. That is Bible. And so that means God is fully involved above and below. Now, what is the Buddhist concept of karma? The Buddha defined karma as an intention, whether the intention manifested itself in physical, vocal, or mental form. That means your intention defines your action. Your intention defines your consequences. It was the intention alone which had a moral character, good, bad, or neutral. The focus of interest shifted from physical action involving people and object in the real world to psychological process. Intention is a psychology, right? A biological reality, chemical reality has been not focused according to one of the best definition which talks about karma. So what does it do? What does this show? The Buddhas do not believe God being involved. They say it is intention, the system is functioning, it is mechanical, because creation is eternal, ever existing. Whether it is in the illusion existence for a person who is seeing what he calls as a creation, or it is the actual existing, doesn't matter. The creation in its real form or in its illusion form is ever existing, and therefore there is no need of God's involvement. The philosophy of Christianity is a ascendance of grace. No, sorry, descendants of the grace. Grace is descending. And the philosophy of the Buddha is ascending to perfection by one's own endeavor and effort. Because the Buddhistic philosophy believes in karma. For every action, there is opposite and equal reaction. Where does it stop? It doesn't stop up until you experience complete nirvana. The karma principle goes up to reincarnation, coming back again and again. So when the Christianity talks about as you shall sow, so shall you reap, they don't talk about reincarnation. They talk about resurrection. Just like there was the resurrection of Jesus Christ, similarly, you'll be resurrected in the final judgment day. You will get the body, but that is not the body caused by your karma in the form of reincarnation. It is resurrection once, and based upon that resurrection and how much grace you have experienced, either you go to hell or you go to heaven permanently forever. So therefore the concept of karma in Christianity does not exist. So one is descending process and one is ascending process. One requires God in every aspect, and other says because it is mechanical, you don't need God. You need to work hard and do good deeds, the good will happen to you. Now what does Sanatan Dharma talk about? Now this is from the Bhagavatam, second canto. Nasya karmani janmado parashan vidiyate kartavya pratishadartha maya ropitam hitata. It is explained. Now hear it carefully. It is most important to understand. There is no direct engineering by the Lord. What is it? There is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. I'll read once again. There is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. Hmm? Now, how do you go deeper in understanding this? You are not accepting Christian theory also. You are not accepting the Buddhistic theory also. So, what is your theory in regards to understanding how the world functions? Who makes it function? Is it grace centric or is it endeavor centric? Is it that I am responsible or is it God responsible? Who is giving me the reaction to my activities? Does it happen automatically or there is somebody who's providing? Now let us focus on the words of the Bhagavatam. In the Gita also Krishna explains, Maya dakshina prakriti swete charachara. Hetunanenu kauntaya jagad viparivartate. Maya adhyakshena prakriti. Adhyakshana is not necessarily means actively involved. Adhyaksha, Adi Aksha, which is happening under his monitoring. He is not directly necessarily involved. So then the question is raised, so how are you different from the Buddhistic philosophy? So if you are non-different from Buddhistic philosophy, as you are mentioning, there is no direct engineering, then who is providing the consequences for our activities? Is it the consequences are blind? Is it the consequences are simply like a buying a lottery ticket? If you get, you get. If you don't get, you don't get. When you throw dice, when you're playing snake and ladder, when you're playing lugdu, when you're playing chaduranga, when you throw the dice, can anybody control the probability of dice falling, the number which you are expecting to fall by certain permutation and combination? Does it possible? It is not possible. You have to go into greater details instead of playing that game. If you want to get into greater details of how to throw, in what number the 4 will come, in which throw the 8 will come, there is a possibility of doing that kind of statistical analysis, right? To throw dice and confirm after this fall, probably on 8th or 9th you get third number, 4 number. How much money will you send in doing research on finding out the exact statistical stability in regards to getting that number? You may achieve success in that, but you lose the purpose of that dice throwing in the game, so that you experience excitement, not experience redundant caused by rhythm. It doesn't exist, it doesn't stay as a game anymore, right? So therefore here, what the Sanatan Dharma makes very clear point, you know there are two things in the Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter. Krishna speaks about 5 causes for success. This is brilliant, and I'll give one simple story and then we will move forward to understand more deeper concept of karma. What is karma? Is God involved, or is it only our action is involved, as Buddhist philosophy talks about? Repeatedly, many times, hundreds of times, we have discussed this story. There was a saintly person, he told, the mathematics of God, how does it function? The mathematics of God functions when you are working, when you are doing something, 90% is your efforts. 90% is your efforts. So what happened? We are trying to follow Buddhistic ideology, work hard, behave nicely, have a right intention, then you are elevated. Your efforts will give rise to success. 90% is your effort, or 95% is your efforts. And 5% you live on destiny, God, Daiva, and higher power. Right? So God is not involved here in your endeavor. When you offer that endeavor, the result which comes, the result of that 5%, the unpredictable reality, the random reality, the gut reality, the destiny reality, the grace reality, the magnanimity of God reality. How much is that? Let us keep it as a 5%, 95% is your endeavor. So the 95% of endeavor may be called as Buddhistic ideology, and the 5% is a Christian ideology. So when they combine together producing the result, what does it do? The 95% of your endeavor turn to be 5%. And the 5% of God's grace turned out to be 95% in regards to its consequences. This we have to go deeper to understand. Right. In the 18th chapter, Krishna explained there are 5 causes for success. The place of action, where are you performing your action? Know your place. Perform your action. Know the action itself. Third, right, the place of action and the action itself. And third is the instrument for action. Everybody in this world comes along with these 3 things: place for action, instrument for action, action itself, and fourth is our involvement. We are involved in it. These are the 4 responsibility is the living entities. And fifth, Krishna says it is Daiva, 18.14, 18 chapter 14 verse. Right, the fifth he says Daiva. Now what does Krishna teach here? He is combining action and the past. When he combines the action and past, that give rise to success, failure, journey, progression, regression, depending upon what it is, how it is happening. It is so dynamic, right? And therefore the karma philosophy doesn't stop only to sowing the seed and reaping the harvest. It is not based upon this time zone. It begins small way, but it is goes up to the concept of reincarnation. And what is reincarnation as against resurrection? In resurrection, you have only one chance. You have only one chance. And in reincarnation, you have multiple opportunities. So, what does the Sanatan Dharma is talking about? In the day-to-day functioning of the creation, Lord is not involved at all. It is such a beautiful machine. It's a brilliant machine. Today, if we understand how the material world functions properly, in regards to understanding the planetary position, in regards to understanding the weather forecast properly. If they follow that sensitive technology, the human being on a material platform would be greatly successful. We will discuss that when we talk about random and predictability. I will not get into that detail. There is a greater chances when you follow certain system, there is a greater guarantee of success, right? So from a material perspective, God is not involved. But what is that Daiva? The perspective of Daiva. That perspective of Daiva gives us right consciousness, right attitude, right enthusiasm, right spirit. The hand will burn, but the spirit will analyze the burning of the hand properly. Everybody dies in this world. Yesterday was the 26/11, where some of the security forces laid down their life. Death will come for somebody who does good work. Death will come for somebody who will do wrong work. But the spirit of death, the consequences of death changes. One is durmarana, accidental death, right? And other is akala mrityu, untimely death. And there is veera marana. Veera marana means glorious departure as a warrior, as a teacher, as a farmer, as a spiritualist, leading the disciplined life. When they leave their body, that very death also has a diversity. Huh? So therefore, in creation, God is not directly involved. So therefore, this whole philosophy of Purushartha and Daiva became very strong. Now, where this concept of karma philosophy karma philosophy comes by common sense, the wisdom of the scripture, right? And when you interact with the world, you understand. Now, what is the cultural context? Now, Arjuna in the first chapter, verse number 42, 43, 44, he is very clearly indicating his trust in the concept of karma. An increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life, both for the family and for those destroy the family tradition. The ancestor of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. This is karma, progressive karma, experiencing action now, experiencing consequences now, experiencing consequences maybe after 10 year, 12 year, family tradition welfare is destroyed. And then Arjuna goes beyond that, talks about reincarnation. Oh Krishna, the maintainer of the people, first chapter 43 verse. I've heard by disciplic succession that those who destroy family tradition dwell always in hell. Now, three things Arjuna is speaking about, and it is based upon the philosophy of karma only, action and consequences. But the action and consequences is not based upon immediate action and immediate consequences. It goes over this lifetime and goes beyond other lifetime, because from the perspective of time, from the perspective of action, there is no such thing as past, present, and future. There are continuous flow. Therefore, karma is not only discussing about today's cause and action. Karma is not about discussing only about reincarnation. Karma is discussing the complete package as it is. Just like, how God is not involved in this. Now, when you put your hand in the fire, again, the same example, it burns. Now, who is responsible for experiencing the burning sensation? Is God, Krishna, putting his flute down because he's knowing now somebody is putting his hand in the fire and then I have to burn his hand? Because Is it that kind of supervisor? If you eat right wrong timely, at 12 o'clock in the night, you start partying around, having a pizza, ice cream, cold drink, whatnot. Who gave you that? God gave. Maybe you'll offer gratitude God gave you. But the problem is, according to Prakriti, you're consuming your food from a medical perspective at the wrong time. Next day, there is a constipation. Next day, there is a stomach problem. Next day, you have an acidity. You couldn't sleep properly also. Now, that pain, who gave you? Yeah. Is God give that consequences? Is he actively involved in giving? No. It is the mechanistic process operating systematically since time and immemorial, right? Only that God involved is that he's observing it like a machine which is functioning properly. And whenever that machine does not function properly, one who is not actively involved in the creation, he comes with an avatar for some time, like a mechanic, right? You are driving your Porsche, your Mercedes, your BMW. You don't need a garage, you don't need a mechanic, you don't need the person who has created the car. And suddenly your car breaks down somewhere in the hill station. What happens? You call the mechanic. The mechanic comes, and what does he do? He fixes the car. He drives the car as a practice for 2 3 seconds, and he says, sir, it is functioning properly. You sit in your car, you drive, he goes away. The concept of mechanic coming and fixing your car is synonymous to the Lord coming as an avatar once in a while. The avatar does not stay all the time. The avatar comes for some time. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati. Whenever there is decline in dharmic principle, predominance of adharma, the vehicle has lost its coherency, then he comes, he fixes it and leaves because you have to run it. Huh? So therefore, the concept of action and consequences is not the immediate action and consequences alone. It goes unto the next life also. It goes into the next and next life also. It goes on to the next and next life also. Because from the Sanatan Dharma's perspective, creation is eternal. Hmm? It manifests and it withdraws. The earth, water, fire, air, ether, the element are eternal. The combination of that element once in a while during the destruction of the creation and recreation, it manifests again. Hmm? So therefore, our action and consequences, what happens, are not only focused on this lifetime, only on this body. They take you to the next body also. That is called as reincarnation. And what is resurrection? You finished your life, you're died, and you lie down. The body disappears, disintegrates, degenerated. But during the time of resurrection, all the living entities are given a body. And which body is that? Same body. But the point is, those who take shelter of Jesus, they go to heaven forever. Those who do not take shelter will go to hell forever. Hmm? But this concept does not exist in Sanatan Dharma, doesn't exist in Sanatan Dharma. You continue to take birth in this world. One can see that as a bondage, but one can see that as an opportunity, you know, to experience positive lifestyle. And therefore, it is but natural for Arjuna to be calculative in regards to the concept of karma. There is a consequences now, presently, there is a consequences tomorrow, and there is a consequences in future life. So Arjuna is able to see integrated vision. He can see yesterday, he can see today, he can see tomorrow, and he can see next life also. Because the flow of action and reaction continuously exists forever. And once in a while, the Lord comes to fix like the mechanical. Now, the question is raised, then if God is not involved in our day to day activity, then what is the guarantee that we will overcome all the karma? That is the point. Karma is subservient to the powerful living entity. The living entity, if he or she chooses to transcend, just like if somebody is born poor and a sincere and hard worker decides, no, 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 I want to go beyond. I want to go beyond my poverty. He puts his right kind of efforts under the right guidance. Then what happens? There is a greater chance that they will be successful because their effort is extremely strategic. Now, want to continue to work patiently for a long time, we need the principle of gratitude and hope. We are not expecting God to change result. If you do that, then you are consciously or unconsciously becoming Christian. And from the Vedic philosophy, the concept of karma has to be understood properly. If you go to a shoot shop and expect them to give you lemon juice to buy, you're not going to get there. That will give rise to frustration. If you're going to a movie theater where the Marathi movie is playing and you are from some other country, what will happen? The movie is there, but you are come to the wrong place, so your pain will increase because your expectation is not supposed to be met there. Huh? So once you understand the mechanism of it, then there is also this tendency in the living entity, a dharmic living entity, to have the dependence on God. It is like throwing the dice. Throwing the dice is your responsibility. What number will come, that depends upon how you have thrown. Similarly, when we know clearly that God is not direct involved, but you are having that gratitude that I have worked, I have done my best, but the rest is in the hands of God. Then what will happen? The karma theory is a diagnostic center, and karma theory taking responsibility centric, and karma theory is also along with that waiting for the grace of God. So therefore, Arjuna, because he knew very clearly, he is mentioning it would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. So there is action and there is consequences. That is understanding. But the problem, as we discuss, we go deeper into this. This is what Arjuna is speaking. Again, as I said, one may say, but this is too pessimistic. I don't know what I did 30 lifetime ago. I don't know what I did 50 lifetime ago. I don't know what I did 100 lifetime ago. How is that I'm punished for something what I did not know, remember, why they were not giving me exactly on that time only. Why I have to give after 100 lifetimes? It is not as simple as we have to believe. If you are talking about diversity of the creation, you can imagine the limitless combination, the permutation combination of karma theory in regards to how it operates, where it operates, what are the consequences, How do the consequences come forth? Therefore, Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita 4th chapter that kim karmeti, kim akarmeti, kavayapyatra mohita. He said, hey Arjun, you know what? Karma is not black and white. To understand karma is not easy. He said, even the great scholars are basically bewildered. But if you become sensitized with me, then you will be liberated. So therefore, denying karma is denying wisdom. Denying karma is denying common sense. One is not suffering because of karma is not there to give us sarmi. The very word karma means action. Right. So there are a few points I will discuss based upon Gita. What is it? The concept of karma is fact of life. There are no sentiments involved here. However much you want to see things are normal, cool, happy-go-lucky, it is not like there is a action and there is a consequences. There is a sentiment about life and there is a rule about life. The sentiment prevails our heart, but the rule batters and tramples upon the feelings. If your feeling and facts of life are harmonized, that is great. And that is what is the goal of Gita, is to harmonize your feeling and facts. Right? So what is the fact of life? The fact of life is to act what you are. No, you cannot be imaginary. Act what you are. Therefore, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, 33rd verse, Krishna explains, if however you do not perform your duties of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Losing his reputation itself is like hell. Right? And not functioning is making everything dysfunctional. When you make everything dysfunctional without functioning, what you feel, what you believe, what you understand, what you want to express does not matter at all, because you have not functioned based upon who you are. There is a consequences of that. And therefore, when Krishna is talking about act according to your duties, he is not talking about your habits. The habits and the dispositions are two things. The habits are born out of our negligence, our irresponsible behavior, caused by the pampering made by the parents. So is it karma? Yes, it is an immediate karma. It is not delayed karma. It's an immediate karma. Right? But the karma principle goes higher and higher, higher and higher, deeper and deeper, wider and wider. So the simple thing, your bad habits are not your disposition. And your dispositions are not bad habits. Krishna is making very clearly in the 3rd chapter, Arjun, what will regression accomplish? Right? What will regression accomplish? There are some people, they want to be honest externally. And there are some people, they're suffering because of this external honesty. Because internally there is certain other reality. But they do not have the courage to deal with the internal honesty. And therefore, for whatever reason, they should not be called as hypocrites. They should not be called as cheat. We use those words, right? But we are talking about sincere people. No, they are scared, they are not able to handle, so they prefer living a conflicting life within, but the superficial external life, which is rhythmic. For what will you get karma for? The external karma we will get because you have acted properly. But the internal karma also will cause pain to you. While external karma will give you 98% mark, the external karma will give you good wishes from the people for completing 25 years in marriage, 50 years in marriage, 30 years in marriage, 30 years in partnership. But the internal reality will make you completely broken and vacuum unless you fix it with yourself. Be honest to yourself. And if you have the courage, talk to those who understand your disposition. So therefore karma is not about developing habits. Karma is basically acting according to our disposition. If you're a warrior, then don't act like a person living in the monastery, living a life of complete non-violence. You cannot be a monk, an external monk, when you are guarding the borders of the country. Sometimes people send this picture of a spiritualist holding a gun in his hand and a bead bag in the other hand. It is one of the most unrealistic picture you could ever imagine, because you cannot shoot a bullet also, and you cannot chant properly also. Right? There is a time for chanting and there is time for guarding. And especially you're in the battlefield, like the modern battleground, and or the battleground which was existing in the Kurukshetra. After a few days, many rules were broken. They were fighting in the whole night also, but generally they followed. You don't see anybody, including the Pandavas, having the spiritual ingredients or the ritualistic ingredients along with their bow. Right? It's very important. It is very important to understand the habits are formed, but the dispositions are there. No, we cannot change our disposition. If you have the fighting spirit, you will fight, if not the right kind of battle, but you will fight for the wrong reason. So therefore, if somebody is slow, that is not considered as lazy. His habit is very bad, lazy. No, slow can become lazy, but slow is not necessarily lazy. One could be aggressive, but that not necessarily mean that they're violent. Aggressiveness is not synonymous to violent. They could become violent, but not necessarily they are violent. That is their disposition. No, another person, right? He enjoys he's a connoisseur of food, loves taste. They could be overeating, but not necessarily overeating. They can enjoy the food, and with discipline, by developing right habit. And developing right habit has nothing to do with your past. It has some flavor on it. One can develop the qualities, and therefore the philosophy of karma is not simply sitting and feeling regret. In the Ayurvedic textbook, it is explained, when you get sickness is your karma. And looking for medicine is also your karma. One karma is a reflective reality, and other karma is an active reality. The reflective reality cannot become complete unless there is an active reality. For example, somebody fails in a most important examination after putting all their efforts. So what happened? They lose 1 year. they lose 6 months. They might lose 3 months. Now, by failing in one examination, that is not necessarily failing in your existence. You're not failed life. You're not failed many life because of that one act, right? So the reflection is what? Oh God, I failed. This should have not happened. You have right to feel the pain, but you learn the lesson from it. So when you reflect upon your pain, why did I go through? Why did I fail? That reflection is not a cause of depression. That reflection is cause of learning how will I do next time. So based upon that reflection, you perform your action. So this is karma complete. There is a reflection of your past karma, and there is an action based upon that. So there is a disease and there is a medicine also. Huh? And while the disease and medicines are harmonized together, the factor of grace, today we are not discussing that. There are many scholars in the Western world, in the Indian world also. They have written books on how things function. There is this famous author, he wrote this book called as Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell, and brilliantly brings out the concept of what gives rise to success in your life. Stories after stories, statistics after statistics. What is it? Talent, finding the talent, or finding the potential, finding the talent, creating an opportunity, and fourth is making them work hard. And he gives some of the most successful IT people, their birth was from 1953 to 56. Whether from Microsoft or Steve Jobs, their birth year is from 53 to 56. Was there something special in the birth date that he does not mention? What he mentions because they were born in that year, when it became 70, 1975, 70, that was a great opportunity for IT boom. The opportunity was there. The talent was already understood. The potential was already understood, and the opportunity came, and they worked hard and hard and hard. They became successful. Hundreds of stories. When you read that, you realize, oh my God, how the systems are extremely based upon mechanistic functioning. There is a, now don't ask me where, hundreds of cases. Now Garbha Samskar, right, the concept of conception, in the astrology, in the Ayurveda, and there are certain traditional medicine. Of course, it's a crime, right, to find out what kind of gender it is, whether it is girl or boy. So we have to follow the legality, right? At the same time, these concepts are there. If you want a girl, if you want a boy, when will you get, how will you get, what you need to do? These are mechanistic system, because you don't know what God is going to give you. That aspect, I'm not going to talk about. The grace aspect that will come in the future classes, right? We are only talking about, it's a reality. The functioning of the creation is very mechanistic most of the time. There is an element which I discussed, 5%, or from the Bhagavad Gita's perspective, the place of action, the resources to perform those action itself, the involvement in the action is the four. Responsibility lies with the living entity, and fifth is called as Daiva, which is the responsibility of the higher source beyond us, right? So when we understand in this way clearly, that you can achieve many things based upon those systems. But why the Gita differs from the Abrahamic disposition of karma, which they don't accept, and differs from Buddhistic ideology of karma? One of the greatest difference is that the grace has the power to make you neglectful, pampered, inactive, become burden to the creation. God will take care. And the Buddhistic philosophy unfortunately destroys the art of invoking grace and gratitude from the higher power. It has the power to make you arrogant. It has the power to make you feel that you are solely responsible for your success. And if you fail, you feel that you are solely responsible for your failure. Either success and failure have the power to destroy your disposition beyond your systematic mechanistic functioning. One gives rise to arrogance caused by success, and other gives rise to depression caused by failure. But by adding the element of grace, adding the element of hope in God, that does not take away your functioning reality. And adding that grace does not take away your dependence reality on God. So this harmony between Daiva and Purushartha, action for future and reflection for the past, not regretting for the past, reflecting the past with the grace of God. Action does not stop. Very important to understand, right? So therefore, fruit and action. You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, 2.47, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. What does it mean? Does Krishna say there are no fruit coming to you? It's a common sense. He knows, you should know, I should know, everybody should know. Every action has a consequences. It is the foundational principle of life. Krishna is not denying that reality. It is an accepted reality. What he meant here, that when you perform your duty, when he says you are not entitled to the fruits of action, that means you don't have control over the fruits. You have control over the action alone. And if you focus on performing your karma, learning from the past, rectifying the next action, what do you have under control? You only have the control over the action. The fruits will come, but don't become obsessed with the fruits, because if you become obsessed with the fruits, then there is a greater chances that you become inactive in regards to action. Therefore, please understand, God, grace of God, kindness and magnanimity of God, when you depend on this aspect and forget the concept of action itself, we become burdened to God rather than gracefully, gratefully depending upon God. Therefore, the creation has a greater psychological consideration beyond simply mechanistic reality, or simply thinking that I only surrender to God. Huh? Because those who are not attached to the results of the activity, knowing very well result will come. If you do it rightly, there is a greater chances that the result will come. But if you become attached, the result has to come like this only, there is a greater chances that you will become inactive in regards to next action. You'll become depressed in regards to next action. When the depression rises, you become blinded in regards to analysis. And if you become successful in regards to your activities, then your celebration becomes extremely intoxicating, because the celebration is simply part of life. The celebration doesn't have the power to stop you from acting only, right? So therefore, what happens with the good people, those who believe that one should depend upon God, they have chosen consciously or unconsciously to be inactive. Ho jayega, something will happen, God will care, God will take care of it. Therefore, Arjuna asked this question to Krishna in the 3rd chapter of the 1st verse. O Janardhan, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Good people choose inaction. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instruction. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Krishna never told Arjuna no action. He did discuss about intellect reality, but intellect reality did not stop him from telling that you should function. But Arjuna is processing it differently because he cannot handle taking the decision of shooting Bhishma and Drona. He is telling himself, I can shoot Duryodhan, but I can't do anything with Bhishma. So what is the best thing? Create a philosophical reality. Why should we worry? God will take care. So the shelter of God here becomes a great escape from active. So the good people always, most of the time, choose inaction. Hmm? But what does Krishna say? Good people choose inaction. Action is not our choice, it is our nature. It is not that we make a choice that you may choose not to act in this field, but that does not mean the action itself is stopped. Please understand, action is not our choice, it's our nature. Therefore, what does Krishna say in the 3rd chapter, 8th verse? Perform your prescribed duty, for doing is so better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. Therefore, karma is action centric. No? And mindset is all about this idea. And what is it? Action certainly give rise to the consequences. It is up to us how we want to deal with it. And that is what the karma philosophy teaches. It says you cannot stop action because that's your nature. Whether you are a good person or a bad person, you have to perform your activities. So what does karma philosophy teaches? You can't give up activities, but we'll teach you how to deal with the consequences. What is that? Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Vishnu, Brahman, Supreme. So whatever activities you do, you have to perform activities. There is no question of not doing. So from that perspective, it is a Buddhistic philosophy. But how it is when you perform that activity, making that as a yagya, sacrifice to Vishnu, it is much superior than simply superficial dependence upon God. Huh? Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, a son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. While performing, with the consequences of the result, what does it mean? His satisfaction. That means you don't have a satisfaction. No, you enjoy when you eat nice food, when you go to nice place. So your pleasure can also be an offering to God. It is not that only your action is an offering to God. Your happiness, your pleasure, your interaction, your romance. One great poet, Purandar Das, wrote about this. Duties for his satisfaction. And in this way, you'll always remain free from bondage. 3.9. Somebody asked this question. what is this nimitya means? What is this being instrument means? How is it different from being responsible? Right? If I have to be instrument, then how it is different from being responsible? Very interesting. Being instrument means when we become part of a part, we become a part of the whole creation. When we become part of the whole creation and we act according to the movement of the machine, the part is not responsible, it is simply instrument. A student one who is writing an examination, however nicely you have prepared, you have prepared so nicely, nobody can beat you in regards to getting great marks, and you are healthy, your parents have tested you, your your blood circulation is going on great, your digestive system is good, you're breathing nicely, your eye vision is everything good, you come to the place where you're sitting for examination. What happens? Your bench, your desk is shaking all over, and your pen has stopped functioning because you had not placed ink in that. You took care of yourself, studying nicely, doing everything nicely. The pen is dysfunctional, your desk is causing trouble, and the entire classroom, you are the only one sitting inside the classroom, and all the windows are closed. So, what is that? You are responsible for sitting in the examination, but your instruments are malfunctioning. What will happen? It will create some kind of jittery. But if you're prepared nicely and your instrument also are very good, the pen is very nice, the desk is very good, your clothes are very nice, and you rock in the examination and the results are also great, whom do you give credit to? Do you give the credit to the pen? Do you give the credit to the desk? Do you give the credit to the industry which created a notebook? Instantly afterwards you may say, no, I got a pen also nicely, but instant reaction is that the responsible person gets the credit or chastisement, not the instrument. So this action gives rise to consequences. How to deal with that? 9.3.9. If you understand, then from that perspective, for a warrior, killing and saving are non-different from each other. Violence and non-violence become irrelevant in regards to being against each other. On that level, himsa and ahimsa, they are non-existent. Killing and saving become non-existent because you are acting really as an instrument in the hands of divinity, like Arjuna did. And this is what Gandhi fumbled. He said, I do not want to be I do not want to be violent at any cost. So he became responsible rather than becoming simply instrument. The instrument principle is it is very flexible and malleable. And the responsible principle is very rigid, stubborn, because they are thinking, I am taking the responsibility. If something goes wrong, I am responsible. But if you see this systematically functioning based upon so many parameters, mechanical parameter, and along with that you are functioning, I am doing on behalf of you know the supreme, then what happens? Your action will be responsible. Arjuna was a hesitant killer. Yudhishthira Maharaj was a reluctant shooter. Lord Ram never wanted to kill Ravan. A warrior also becomes much greater non-violent than the propagator of non-violent person. Right? He follows the system and he follow the right understanding of karma. Therefore, karma is a diagnostic discovery with a medicinal solution. Karma is not slandering your destiny. Karma is a diagnostic discovery. Oh my God, you have got a neck pain. Oh my God, you have this, your knee has a problem. Is it a slander? Oh, you're talking about my disfiguring of my internal bone system. Or you're talking my blood is dirty, your blood is poisonous. You have been so slanderous, I'll sue you. Now, when the doctor talks about contaminated blood, what is it? It is diagnostic discovery of your action. But with what? With giving that hope and solution. Oh, but don't worry, I can fix it. Therefore, disease is karma, and fighting that disease with medicine is also karma. So when we understand this concept very clearly, the philosophy of karma, I will recap because it's very important too. In the Christian world, you only focus on grace. In the Buddhist world, you only focus on action. In the Vedantic philosophy, you harmonize between the grace and the action. Action is of a greater degree in regards to physical reality, and grace is 100% in regards to internal heart reality. When the physical reality and the heart reality are harmonized, so that karma has the power to make you perform your duties without expectation. It has the power to deal with the consequences of your activities because you're fully internally depending upon, and your success does not give rise to arrogance. It gives rise to happiness, confidence, but not arrogance. And your failure does not give rise to depression. It gives rise to reflection of the past, preparing it nicely, and again fighting. And therefore, those who practice karma philosophy, which is flavored with daiva, they have the courage to say, I was simply an instrument in the hands of God. I was not the doer. And for that, you can study Arjuna's behavior in the Bhagavatam 15th chapter of the first canto, how much he did. What a great accomplishment he had. Many accomplishment Krishna was not directly involved in his life, but he had the courage, he had the realistic idea, he had the clear understanding that I was simply an instrument in the hands, and only because him the success come. And when you say this, only because of him, only after when the success comes, you have the courage to offer that gratitude. Not before the success comes, I will just depend on God. I don't need to do anything. That makes us basically burdened. We become burdened to the society. Therefore, karma philosophy. Now we'll get into more details because the predictability and randomness, the time factor, they're simply expanding the different aspect of karma to understand how the creation functions. And why does it happen? As we discuss in the Sanatan Dharma, creation, God is not directly involved in its upkeep. It is such a beautiful machine, it is functioning on its own. But at the same time, it is not like a Buddhistic philosophy that there is nobody who is making this to automatically function. Even if the car is you are driving, somebody must have used their brain to make it function automatically. Car is not a right example because somebody made the car, but Prakriti is designed in such a way. The word Prakriti itself means what? It is automatically functioning on its own. So if you understand the difference between how the grace philosophy functions, the endeavor philosophy functions, and the dharma philosophy of grace and endeavor, gives rise to relentless activities and relentless dependence on God. And therefore, karma is solution centric, discovery centric, diagnostic centric, and empowerment centric. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for the wisdom. Yes, karma is not fatalistic, it is action oriented with the right consciousness. We have a few questions, Prabhuji, on our chat. Bhaskarji is asking a slightly technical question. He says that if dispositions come from our previous life, can you throw some light on how does it get assigned to us at the time of birth?
That's what, this whole, in the very Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Don't get into it. Is not possible for us to figure out exactly threadbare how this happened, because kim karmeti, kim akarmeti, kavyapyatra mohita. It is very difficult even for the kavis to figure out how it is functioning, because it's a complex system, right? But still, when the Shastras do talk about, why you appear, which body you came from, this body, in the astrological chart it is there, in the Mahabharata there is a concept of, from which body one gets a human body. Then we discuss the three modes of material nature there also. But the point is, for us to believe in that, we need to have a faith, because they don't get into the details of when you got, how you got, even astrologically doesn't get into all the details of what kind of life you had 50 life ago. Even if they explain, it is not an observational reality, it is a trust reality, it's a faith reality. But the principle is there. The principle is there. I must have done something, therefore I have developed this disposition. And what I exactly did, does it matter to go back and just get into all the details of what happened? You can have a common sense and with a foundational understanding. Okay, I've come in this background, these are my reality. I am not as fast as this person, but that does not mean I'm a lazy. Or I'm not as steady as this person, I'm very aggressive, that doesn't mean that I'm violent. You can always take your karma, and with right yoga practice, yoga means not just doing the asana, yoga means basically harmonizing the past, harmonizing the present, and creating a rhythm for the future, that is called as yoga. Therefore, we don't get into the details of what you were, what happened to you. We get into the principle of it. But if you really want to know about this, there are chapters after chapter in which body, why somebody, what animal species they had, and what happens when they come here. All that is there. But it is all, you can only accept them based on the faith principle.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There's a question by Anita Ji. She asks, how do we know that our likes and dislikes are based upon disposition or habit?
That's not very difficult to understand. Nowadays it has become difficult because there is so much of mixing of the habits and the disposition, because the modern society is functioning based upon what the society want them to function. We are controlled by the societal explanation, which is founded on the principle of ignorance, right? Agyan. And it is founded on the principle of ignorance. In your school, in your colleges, you are taught mostly the external reality, and that is also not proper discussing the creation. So therefore, when that happens, what happens? Our society is making us believe that this is your disposition. Recklessness is considered as freedom of speech, right? Certain bad habits in regards to causing health issues to you, whether it is overeating, whether it is, one can say it is my choice. No, again, body is mechanistic. It doesn't function based upon your feeling. It functions based upon your capacity, and capacity can be diagnosed, right? But it is operating more on feeling. And feelings have become systems in the modern world. When the feeling becomes system, and that creates a conflict in regards to what is habit and what is disposition. But to understand disposition, it doesn't take much time. No, it's just 12 years in regards to going to a educational center, psychologically, astrologically, common sense, and people who watch you, they can tell you you are made for this kind of, what is that? Some coach saw Usain Bolt. He wanted to ball. He wanted to be a cricketer. He wanted to be a, you know, he was worshipping the great cricketers even from India. But his coach, sorry, you are meant for something better. You're not meant for, bowling. You're meant for running. And just see what happened to him. No, unfortunately, we do not have any systems in the schools and colleges. Even though our scripture, our Jyotish Shastra, our common sense has limitless facilities to recognize what is children's disposition, but we are not using that, right? At this age, then we start thinking, "Arey, what is my disposition?" Does it make sense?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Aruna ji has a question she would like to ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the nice discourse. One of the students in the regular classes that we meet during weekends asked me this question. I'll read out the question, Prabhu, and I've answered it too, but I want to make sure that I give justice to that question, the answer. So she wrote, while discussing in one of the classes, we mentioned that we should try to achieve something. When we are trying to achieve something, we should work as if the entire result depends on us. And once it's over, we should pray as if the entire result depends on Krishna. So during the process of college application, I put in my best effort for the colleges. I really want to get into it, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee my admission. So if I pray to Krishna, will he definitely fulfill my desires? Or should I not be praying for such things since they are selfish and materialistic? This is the question, Prabhu.
Praying is natural. Praying is natural. But making a prayer as a system for getting the result is extremely inorganic and unnatural. No, please hear. Praying is natural, but when prayer becomes a system that, okay, you pray, you will get, then that is artificial, inorganic, and not realistic. It is simple. I'll give you simple example you can extend when you are playing a snake and ladder game, right? And somebody is throwing the dice and she is not praying. Focused on play. I don't want to pray. And somebody else, every time she throws, oh Krishna. The saying Krishna is good, but expecting that saying of Krishna should give her the result better than the other person who is not praying is a stupidity. Now, please separate the two. Remembering Krishna is good, but using that remembrance of Krishna for a prevailing against other person is not real. It is not proper. Therefore, praying to Krishna, Krishna, if I get a good medical college, good this, it's okay. But because I prayed, I did not get, that is wrong. So therefore, we don't only pray after, we don't offer gratitude only after. It's a habit, but that habit should be based upon the philosophical reality rather than the emotional reality. You know, does it make
So
sense?
how does prayer help in this context, Prabhu, while playing snake and ladder or while applying for colleges?
Because it is a relationship with God is based upon our friendship rather than expectation. The whole definition of bhakti is all about unconditional. You know, when you are with your friend, friendship is based upon not having expectation other than just having friends with each other. The true friendship, what is defined. Whenever there is an expectation of friendship, it is that's how the material function. The material will function based upon bargain, commitment. It is all purely practical reality. But I'm talking about friendship with God. What is it? With the friendship is God is that I don't want anything from you. I just want you. Right? Because like Arjuna, when Krishna asked him, what do you want? Me or my army? Now, any practical reality, if you're a boss in a company and somebody comes with investment and you're looking for an investment of $300,000, and that person is asking, is your good friend? He is asking you, do you want $300,000 or you want my friendship? No, he is giving that option. Of course, if you're smart, we will say, hey, come on, give me money also and be with me also. Right? But here Krishna did not give that option to Arjuna. He did not allow Arjuna to tell, give me your army also and come to me also. He said, you choose between me who is not fighting and your army, my army. So what did Arjuna say? Krishna, I have prepared, I have all my resources. I worked hard for last 12 years to collect my resources. So I'm not looking for resources. I want the source of the resources, that is you. Right? So Arjuna dependent on his ability, and Arjuna dependent on Krishna for guidance. He was personally there. Otherwise, Krishna did not involve in Arjuna's fighting all the time, helping him to win. There were many reversal also. So therefore, it's very clear, very simple and logical. God will not work for you, but God will create a refined consciousness when you are working for yourself. Either victory or defeat. In the entire Bhagavad Gita, 700 verses, if Krishna is not guaranteeing personally to Arjuna, other than in the Vishwarup form, he only says, as a Kshatriya, it's your duty to fight. Victory or defeat, either one. If you win, you will enjoy the kingdom. If you die, you will achieve the heavenly planets. This is the truth of the matter. And everything else is simply pacification, it's encouragement, and it is a not a real truth.
Got it, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Prabhuji, there's a question by Taruja ji. Taruja ji, can you please ask a question?
Yeah, this is a husband. I mean, I'm just logged in through my wife's Zoom ID. Prabhuji, thank you. Thank you for these beautiful lessons. I was just reflecting on so much of what you were saying. And what I'm also gathering in my own mind is, karma is increasingly about, so with the strong linkage to us doing what we need to do, which is our dharma or our actions in the present. What's also emerging for me is that then if so our ability to then not be in the past, does that then qualify as karma? In balancing our karma and equalizing it is more about staying in the present and doing your dharma as per what your role in the present moment of time. Okay, can it be interpreted like that?
Your action is present,
Right.
you have a reflection of the past as much as past is within your grasp.
Correct.
Right? So if the grasp is not within your capacity, and if you find, okay, somebody else will help me about my past, like then you approach to them. No, maybe it's again not dependence. It is not intoxicating. Oh, let me go to astrologer, or let me go to astrologer. He may give you a hint. Okay, this is what you are analyzing. What is astrology? Astrology is nothing but deeper common sense. Mathematical deeper common sense. So when you have a right common sense, you understand, okay, I can grasp this much. You go to him and ask him, okay, and he can give you little more understanding of your past. But the purpose of understanding the past is to collect the data and operate in the present, not
Correct.
get stuck in the past.
Correct.
Generally, what happens when you go and get into the, people go through regression therapy, people go through going to their past, they become more interested in finding out their past rather than learning the past. They get stuck in the past, and the present action is totally disturbed and disrupted. No? So therefore, I'm only going for the past because I can't change the past, but I'm learning from the past, gathering my resources to function in the present. That is therefore, when people say, there are these books which the power of
Mm.
Where does the power of now fail? The power of now is again coming from the Buddhistic idea only.
Mm.
Only present is important. No, the past is important for you to function in the present properly. As I said, reflection analysis, of the past, depending upon how much I have the capacity of going to the past and bringing back for the action in the present. No. Therefore, Gita goes much deeper in regards to the concept of Gita is about power of now. The power of now is based upon the continuous flow of life, because time
Mhm.
in Gita is not divided into three parts.
Correct.
Only for our understanding we divide the past, present, and future. But in
Correct.
regards to its function, there is no past, present, and future. The function is a continuous flow.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a continuous flow.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, existentially, then does this objective or the existential reality that we then speak about? Is it, and I'm not really looking for a right or a wrong specific answer, but I'm just trying to understand this for my own journey. Is because if your karma keeps bringing you back into different forms of life and the different manifestations, and you said that so beautifully today, in terms of life is eternal, but our manifestations is what keeps coming and going. And if we have to get rid of this whole cycle of life and death, does it then become so poignant and important for us to then be completely present in the present, learn from our pasts, but continue to just be in the present completely? And does that, in a certain sense, is that in a certain sense a reflection of us performing our duties and our karmas to the full capacity?
Very good, fantastic. That is how actually it functions, and only because if I know I was a cat in my last lifetime, and a dark cat compared to the white cat, right? And that is what people get stuck in their past analysis about what happened, rather than learning from there and becoming actively present in the present, right? Because there is nothing to gain in the past other than lessons from there and act presently only.
Correct.
And one who acts presently based upon this principle, they have a greater chance of liberating oneself from all the entanglement of different species of life. We don't we the concept of 84 lakh species of life is not to make us scary, because there are the chances that you fear your future by thinking, I don't want to be a dog, I don't want to be a dog, don't want to be a dog. So what happened? You destroyed your present. Oh, I was a dog in the past, I was a dog in the past. So you're still in the past and you are still moving in the future without performing your action today. Therefore, again, when Krishna said one should not be attached to the fruits of activities, to such an extent, if you do your duties properly based upon your disposition, you don't have to worry about mukti also.
Beautiful.
Mukti is the consequences of the present. And if people are only focusing on mukti, I want to be liberated, I want to be liberated, that also destroys your present. Therefore, in many Vedic literature, it is always spoken about Trivarga, Trivarga, Trivarga. And the consequences of that Trivarga, Dharma, Artha, Kama, when it is harmonized properly, then moksha is the consequences. If you when you take a nice kind of seeds, plant it properly, protect it, and then help it grow, it becomes a tree. This is your responsibility. But when the fruits appear, how they become, shaped and proper flavored, it's not under your control. I still see the mango grow. What they do, they only know how to work for hoping the fruit will come. They don't even think about that eventually. Arey, humar apna kaam karenge. Whatever need to be done mechanistically, they do.
Correct.
But then the fruit is not there in their hands. So similarly, fruit is a mukti.
Correct.
right? And it is but natural reality. It is not that we are denying mukti, but we're not talking about too much, which because it is not within our grasp. So
Mm.
it's not within our grasp. Why should I be so obsessed with that? So function based upon the present reality, which is at least something is within your control. And if you do that, there is a greater chances that you'll get a better fruit rather than dreaming about fruit and not getting any fruit.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say you've given me another lesson just now, which is to, worrying about consequences is living an inconsequential life. Just do what you're supposed to do. Consequences will just really follow.
Thank you. Last
Thank
question we'll take.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. There's a question by Sita ji. She asks that what is the role God can play, or how does God help us in us performing our karma?
So therefore, see, in a general way, it is but natural. We give hope to people. Oh, God will help you. God is there. He is there for you. Just if you chant, if you take to the path of spirituality, if you go to the temple, God will help you. You'll rise above. So this is what like a small child giving a hope to that. But unfortunately, when we give superficial answer, eventually those superficial answer only give rise to large number of people becoming atheist. Large number of people becoming atheist. So and therefore our villagers in the village also knew this common sense. Have you seen? They would say, yahan likha hua hai, it is written here. And which person would say which is written here? Only they were sweating by working hard. They will hold their head. Oh, idhar likha hua hai. If you are sitting in a luxurious place without working, and you are saying, everything is written here, nothing will come beyond this. That is simply a stupid, superficial philosophy without the substance. So therefore, the point is the greatest contribution we can have. It is okay that people learn little, they take longer to learn, but let them learn the deeper concept of life rather than superficial. I remember reading a certain book wherein a boy was abused. And why was he abused? Because he was given a faith without the logic of life. And he went through a lot of abuse. And he said, I don't believe in God. And I'm not angry with God also because it doesn't exist for me. On the other hand, if you go deeper into the philosophy of life, when you develop a personal relationship with God, there is a facility for you to be angry also. And being angry with God is not at all being offensive to God. Just like if you have a very deep relationship with your spouse or with your friend, you don't have a neutral relationship with them. You have a full of different rasas. Today only happened. One devotee friend was helping somebody counseling. The other person was throwing tantrums, ripping him apart, right? But because this person knew that this person is able to have an outburst because there is a deeper relationship, and he handled it happily and nicely. And then another person afterward begged forgiveness, sorry, sorry, sorry. And they said, hey, don't worry, this is how relationship functions. So therefore, when people say I did that seminar on Rasa Tattva, when people say, one should never be angry, one should always be kind, that is another hyped up reality about kindness. Because you cannot be kind to somebody unless you also have other emotions. It is not possible. Our emotions are like different flavors when we cook, right? So therefore, in the scripture, anger, a judicious anger, even towards your beloved, is accepted. And if that is the only emotion you express, that means you are abusing. Right? So therefore, all the rasas, they are like salt is most important ingredient, but doesn't mean that you add 1 kilo of salt in, when you cook a pulav rice. You add appropriately as much as rice is required. The equality principle doesn't function there. There is no socialism in cooking. The rice cannot, the salt cannot claim why only 5 kilo rice, why 5 kilo water, why 5 kilo fire. I also want to be 5 kilo. Why are only taking me 20 gram? No, the communistic philosophy doesn't function there. What is it? The socialism is based upon my appropriate involvement in creating the appropriate taste of food and taste of life. Okay, so I'll stop here, and
Very much, Prabhuji.
we'll meet tomorrow for the next session on time factor. Again, very much closely connected to the karma principle.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for bringing in some more clarity on the concept of karma. See you tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Hare Krishna.